Good morning and welcome. It's June 1st. Boy, what a morning I've had. Um, you know, uh, I'm glad that y'all found me. I'm here to fight CPS with your host, Bob Pace. I've been doing this live stream on YouTube, broadcasting the SteamYard application for going on 19. Well, now we're actually in the 20 months. So it's been over a year and 8 months. So um, 20 months I've been doing this live stream twice a day. I am here to help you with your matter with CPS. Um, it's a horrible, horrible matter that you're involved. There's no question about that. Um, what I call the CPS is the Child Protection System. It's found in every county, in every state, in every country. And this is a worldwide live stream. I'm broadcasting in place has internet. I have over 23 countries, including the United States. And this one country, um, the United States, sadly, the child protection system has gone rogue. You can't trust or depend on this government agency that's supposed to protect our children from neglect and abuse and do family reunification and to provide services such as food, clothing, transportation, and it's supposed to um, help you get a job and education. And they're supposed to provide those things. And a lot of them aren't doing that. A lot of them don't do it. In fact, they said $1,000 spent on providing services per child will get 8% results back with your children retention and so forth, because the best parents are the biological parents. Now, I know it's early, it's Sunday morning, and I'm here on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. During the weekdays, I'm in the 10 a.m., 10 a.m. Monday through Friday. In the evenings, I'm on every night of the week, 7 p.m. And those are all Pacific Standard Times because I broadcast this live for the West Coast of California at Surf City, USA, and um, 3 blocks from the ocean. And I'm glad that you have found me because I will help you. I'm not an attorney, but I'm a loving father and a husband and, family man. I have 6 children I've helped raise. Unfortunately, one of my children isn't involved with her family. She was stolen at age 12. Through a very terrible experience, a social worker retaliated when she was caught committing perjury on the witness stand in court under oath. But I had an appointment today, which is so weird, at 8 o'clock, which is strange because I don't know. I have my show at 8 o'clock, but it said that I had to talk to social services on Sunday at 8 o'clock. It's actually on June 6th at 9:30. So somehow my calendar was messed up. I don't understand why, but it got messed up. But I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you. The picture went dark for a bit, but I'm back. This is a live stream, meaning that people like yourselves can interact with this live stream. Uh, you can call in, you can be a guest, you can text messages. Now, the text a message to me so that I may hear your story or maybe help you with a question. All you have to do when you text a message to me is put it into a comment or a question, and it must pertain to CPS. We're here to talk about CPS. I know there's a lot of life skills that we can talk about, and we can talk about religion, we can talk about politics, but this is not what this live stream's about. It's here to help you with your CPS case. Your child protection system is what I call CPS. All you need to do is give me your first name. Now, a lot of you have interest in handles, but I'd prefer a simple first name. Then your city or county, your state, and if you're from one of the other countries, the 22 countries, your country, because we do help out people from around the world. I have a mom in England and a very special mom in South Africa. And both those people have called in and very tragically been affected by CPS. I've heard from Indonesia, Bangladesh, and India. Up in the Middle East, it's been Saudi Arabia and Libya. Then over to Africa, it's been Liberia and Sudan, and the Republic of Congo to Rwanda, to Mozambique, and then to South Africa. Then up to Europe, it's been England, Scotland, Wales, and Denmark and Sweden. Then across the pond to North America, it's been Canada, and of course the United States, and all 50 states, including the District of Columbia. And then south the border, Mexico, and then down south in South America, north of Brazil, has been Grenada on the East Coast. And then across the South Pacific, it's been New Zealand and the land down under Australia. Now, that's over 1,800 people I've talked to, over 1,800 people. That's a lot of people that have told me their story about CPS. Because when your first time you're texting me a message, please tell me about your CPS case from beginning and then to where you're at the moment. You start off usually with the knock at the door, or maybe you got a phone call, and then you talk about your family and what happened. And a lot of you, if you look at my 5 rules, you can avoid the pitfalls of what I had to go through. It was terrible, the pitfalls that I had. Having an attorney is so important. It's probably I call it the number 1 rule of mine. Because you're going to be dealing with people that are so difficult to deal with. It's like open heart surgery. These people are very hard to navigate. Sometimes you wonder if you're in Alice in Wonderland with the CPS. You've fallen in that rabbit hole. You met the Cheshire cat who sends you from room to room where you go nowhere. And that's what's happened. That's what's happened. This fighting CPS is like open heart surgery. If you know anything about open heart surgery, you're going to get a medical doctor. You're not going to get a plumber, and you're not going to try to do it yourself. Hello, MD Nasa Mia. I assume you are from Maryland, MD. He has a Facebook name called NASA Mia. Hi, sir. Can I contact you about your YouTube channel? You sure can. But we're here to talk about the child protection services. Now he says, I hope you're doing well. I recently visited your YouTube channel and was generally impressed by your content. It's high quality and engaging. That said, I notice your videos aren't receiving the organic views they truly deserve. Based on my analysis, there are secret relationships and title descriptions and tags that may limit your visibility. Okay, if you're here to talk about a CPS, I'll intend to call. If you want to talk about how to improve my SteamYard application, you can contact the office at 888-888-6582 and tell them that you would like to support Bob Pace and improve his YouTube channel where he's using SteamYard. But right now, I'm not open to discussing the parameters of the channel. Okay? So, let me go back to what I was talking about, the second option of interacting in this live stream. To be a guest on the live stream, please email our show producer, Grace, at vincentwdavis.com with the date and time you want to be on our show. You just pick one of my 14 live streams. I want to be on Bob's Sunday morning show, or Bob's Saturday night show, or Bob's Friday morning show, or Bob Wednesday night. You just pick one of the 7 days of the week in either morning or evening, and she'll take care of the rest. She'll send you a link that you copy and paste and get you on the get you going. And when you're in it, if you get knocked off, then paste it again. All you do is paste it in your browser, and it takes care of the rest. You're on, and can have 9 of you that can talk and be seen and help others. And I love having guests. Now, all you do is email Grace at grace@vincentwdavis.com. Grace@vincentwdavis.com. And you just, give her the time and the day, and the rest is all taken care of. Now, the basic rules when you're a guest is that we have no profanity, and we do not use the names of judges or social workers or family members, children, those kinds of things. Also, there's no eating or smoking and no profanity. But those are some rules. Grace will help you. She is an excellent show producer. I appreciate all she does. And thank you very much, Grace, for working behind the scenes. Now, the next thing I'm going to put up is my phone number. Now, that phone number is so that you can call in right now and talk about your case. You can call me at 626-698-0990. And I will gladly let you talk. You can tell a story, or maybe you have a question. And I love to hear from you. I can only do one call at a time. That's the disadvantage of calling in. If you want to be on guaranteed to talk and on my show, then sign in as a guest. Be a guest on my live stream. Be a guest. Now, this particular agency has probably got you tied up in knots. It tied me up in knots too, because for so long I have been fighting CPS. I too am a victim. I've had my family torn apart. I've had it so that I'm not able to find a job because of CPS. I even had my home that worked 45 years for, my forever home. I had to quickly sell it to hire an attorney. And my family is very disjointed because I have 6 children that I've helped raise. 3 of them are adults. They have family of their own, and luckily they weren't involved. But because of what they heard and how family members love to talk, they're distant from us as a family. My 3 younger ones were kidnapped and stolen into a CPS shelter in Orange, which was very old, very run down, very dirty, and very cramped. It also was next to the Bureau of Prisons for Juveniles. Their play yard was the same as the children's play yard. Not only did they have to contend with the juvenile prisoners talking to them or yelling at them, they had to deal with the beehives that had bees nearby stinging the children. Now, that to me doesn't sound like it's safety for the children. They took my children, stole them, they trafficked my children, and put them in this shelter when they weren't in danger. They're in school. One was in a private school, and one was in a middle school, a good middle school, and one was in a great elementary school. These three schools the kids have been attending. But what had happened to me, and I did not know this, is that when I lost my job through no fault of my own in 2010, I'm out there looking for work, but I had to change my lifestyle with my family. And that's the hardest thing when a family's grown accustomed, because I had a nice income. I had a home close to the beach, a very expensive home. But I had money I'd put away. Some of it I had lost, my retirement. But I had enough. It had enough for me. I didn't lose my home until 7 years later. I was able to maintain and still find work and try to work at odd end jobs and make things work. Excuse me. But unfortunately, when you have a CPS involved, and the problem with the CPS is that they take reports from two kinds of individuals. They're the mandated reporters, which are your professionals. It started with the doctors in the early 60s, noticing that children were bruised and looked like they had suspected it looked like abuse. So in 1962, Congress passed a law that social services would be entrusted with protecting our children from neglect and abuse. So they formed a CPS system. They took a group of social workers and put them in those positions to protect our children from neglect and abuse. Now, the problem there is that there was no laws. They talked about it, but they had no enforceable laws until 1974. So it took 12 years for them to get something that they could enforce on. So from 62 to 74, it was sort of trial and error. Now, the history of taking care of our children, children welfare, goes back to 400 years ago, to early 1600s, when the colonists from Europe were trying to settle in the New World. We had the Jamestown village, that we had the place at Plymouth Rock with the Pilgrims. We had all these different groups being formed. We have one group, the name escapes me, but they disappeared. Anyway, there was a case of a child being abused by a shopkeeper in 1600. Now, the history of the United States for the child welfare system has evolved according to changing beliefs and attitudes about what role government should play in the protection and care of abused and neglected children. Early government interventions on behalf of children needing care were characterized more by practical concerns about meeting the physical needs of children than by concerns about the negative impact of abuse, neglect on children development. As a public awareness about child abuse and the damage it caused, the importance of child protection received greater attention by government officials. Now, they seem to divide the history of child welfare into three parts from 1600 to 1875, and from 1875 to 62, and from 62 to the present. There's three different areas. Now, in the 1700s, orphan and children whose parents could not care for them were often simply indentured to work for other families as servants. By the early 1800s, private religious and charitable organization establishes the first orphanage. Now, it wasn't in 1875 when the New York Society, the High Society, these are wealthy people that would step in to help out children. Also, 1875 was the time that the Native American Indians were rounded up and put on reservations. The battles were winding down. The last battle that the Indians fought really was the Battle of Little Bighorn, which defeated General Armstrong Custer and his troops. And it's sad because the Native American Indians were the first people. In Canada, they're called the First Nation people. In the United States, it's called Native American Indians. And the word Indian came from Christopher Columbus, who thought he was in India, but he's actually in the West Indies, and he called the indigenous people Indians, named after India. That's where the name Indian came from. But most Indians like to be called Native Americans because they're in North America and they are part of the United States. But they're on what's called federal reserves, reservations that federal government can't really step on. They're run by their own Indian police, their own Indian government, and they try to take care of their own. But they're very poor, and they were rounded up and put onto reservations that could barely grow anything, barely produce anything. The forest, the hunting, the buffalo were gone. They were almost exterminated. But anyway, the children were rounded up and they were never to see their parents again. They're put in private Indian schools where they were abused. Their hair was cut. Their culture was wiped out. They could no longer wear their culture clothes. They could no longer speak the language. So these Indians suffered quite a lot. It wasn't until 1978 that they had something that protected the Indians, and it was the ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act. And this ICWA basically stated that any Indian children that are involved in CPS, there would be attempts made to see if they were Indian children, and if they were not, if they could be registered as Indian children, if they had the Indian blood. There are 548 recognized federal tribes. And of these tribes, the Indians take care of their own. So what it did in 1978 was force social workers in CPS to turn over children to their reservations so that they could do family reunification and get their parents back. Because from 1875 to 1978, children were never returned to families. They never saw their families again, which is sad. They were adopted. They were adopted. By the Um, you know, by the 1850s, a century later out of concern about the effects of growing up in orphanages, private agencies became practicing in placing orphans with foster family. However, prospective families were rarely screened, and agents seldom monitored the placement. So by the early 1900s, the first state laws to prevent child abuse and neglect were passed. The first national conference on needs of dependent children was convened, and the first federal children bureau was established. Now, in 1935, the Social Security Act authorized the first federal grants for children welfare services under what came later to know as Subpart 1 of Title 4B of the Social Security Act. These first federal grants served as impetus for states to establish child welfare agencies and develop local programs to deliver child welfare service. Over the next several decades, it was expanded to include a broader range of services. Federal funding for child welfare services increased, and states were required to match federal grants with state funds. Now, the original Social Security Act also created the Aid to Dependent Children program in order to help states provide financial assistance to needy dependent children. In 1962, that's where I've told you where the CPS, this program was renamed Aids to Families with Dependent Children, which in turn replaced by Temporary Assistance to Needy Families. It's a block grant program in 1996. Now, during the 50s, federal lawmakers became increasingly aware that many needy children were denied uh, benefits, specific under suitable home or maintain the house policies. Welfare agencies in many states denied aid payments made on behalf of children of unwed mothers and other parents whose behavior was deemed immoral. In most instances, the children received no follow-up services despite their established need for financial assistance. There was this thing called the Fleming Rule in 1960, um, where the Louisiana expelled 23,000 children from its welfare rolls because they determined their mothers had become a child outside of marriage. Although similar actions occurred in other states, Louisiana incident prompted the Department of Health rule naming the Secretary Arthur Fleming. The rule declared that states could not simply ignore the needs of children living in households deemed to be unstable. Instead, the ruling required states to either provide appropriate service to make the home suitable or move the child to a suitable placement while continuing to provide financial support on behalf of the child. And this is all good because the Social Security Act amendments in 61, they were assisting states with the ruling. Now, foster care becomes mandatory in 67. Congress amended the Social Security Act in addition to them. They included foster care mandatory for all states. The Child Abuse and Treatment Plan in 1974 was the first major federal legislation addressing child abuse and neglect. In exchange for federal funding, children abuse prevention and treatment requires states to establish child abuse reporting procedures and investigation systems. Then it further talked about the Indian Child Welfare Act of 1978. Then there's the Adoption Assistance of the Child Welfare Act of 1980. We had the um, Congress adopted assisted child welfare in the 1980s. And then 1986, we had independent living, who were adolescents who aged out of the foster care when they turned 18. Now, by the 1980s, foster care began to rise dramatically. For example, between 1986 and 95, the number of children in foster care increased from 280,000 to nearly 500,000. And researchers pointed to the multiple effects of economic slowdown, the crack cocaine epidemic, the AIDS and higher incarcerated rates among women offenders. In 1993, out of concern, the states were focusing too little attention on efforts to prevent foster care. Um, and I don't want to spend too much because this goes on and on and on and on. And this is pretty thorough, this article that I found. It was really bad in 1997 when President Clinton signed into law the Incentive Act, where foster care families were encouraged to adopt their children, and the child protection system would reward them. I mean, they would be rewarded by the federal government of $35,000 for every child that is adopted in foster care. They were trying to make family reunification become obsolete, and that was tough here. I thank you very much for the warm heart that in this room from MD. That was nice of you to come in and give me that thing there. Hello, Christina Reynosa, and welcome. I'm so glad to see you. Christina Reynosa is one of my regulars in the show, and I'm so glad that she is in the show. She said that her mom, Apache and European with half Spain, was sent to Gallup, separating from siblings. But in 1 year's time, her baby brother, her mom and dad had passed away. Her dad, her mom's dad, and her mom's mom, dad, gold and silver miner system didn't work. Now, what Christina is saying is that I'm clarifying CPS worked on behalf of my mom in the 50s. Oh, that's good to hear. And then when my older sister was separated from my mom, and then her more than 18 years older husband. And I thank you, Christina. Uh, Christina Reynosa is from Texas. And she's a beautiful person, has been in my room as one of my regulars. And I want to thank her for being on my live stream. She's been here for months. In fact, I think she's been here for at least a year. Now, I'm here talking. I don't want to be talking. I've been talking for 33 minutes. What I would like to do is hear from one of you. Hear from one of you that you wanted to talk about something or answer a question or talk about a topic or tell me to talk about a topic. There's so much I can do to help you. I have my rules, which I developed from my bad experience in CPS. You know, one of the most important rules I have is finding an attorney. And that's a hard thing for most of you to do there. First of all, my rule number 4 tells you how to research on the internet. And it's very important that you start off by asking certain questions. About your CPS, you need to spend 80 hours. You need to spend a lot of time. You start off by putting the city followed by the state. Now, if your city is a small city, you may have to put the small city first by a comma, the larger city, then put the state. Then, if you're from another country, put your country. And then put the letters CPS. And you'd be surprised how much stuff will just mop up with just that. Now, if you want to specifically find an attorney, you want to make sure that you classify the kind of attorney you're looking for. They are a juvenile law, family law, dependency law attorney. They have those 3 areas: juvenile, family, and dependency. That's the court you're in. It's called dependency court or family court. Some states it may say family, some states they say dependency. But that's where your case for your legal matter will be tried, be heard. Now, also, I've been doing some research because it seems like we never have a jury trial with CPS cases, but you could ask for one. I learned that just recently because all the things I try to learn. Um, I, they say that a party to a suit affecting the parent child relationship is entitled to request a jury with some limitations and generally applicable to suits brought by CPS. Any party to a custody suit can request a jury trial. It is common to request a jury trial if the court appointed experts disagree with the opposing positions. Specialized procedure requirements and unique courtroom dynamics require special trial techniques of preparation when jury hears a case. And this was done in Texas, I think it is. Um, it says both the U.S. and the Texas Constitution guarantee the right to a jury. And they actually have a book about jury trials. It says both the U.S. and the Texan Constitution guarantee the right to a jury, with some limitations on generally applicable to suits brought by CPS. A party to a suit affecting the parent child relationship is entitled to request a jury. When the substance proof is no different when a jury hears a case, there are specific procedures, requirements, as well as courtroom dynamics. To invoke the right to a jury trial, a party must file a written request with the clerk of the court. The request was made within a reasonable time, no less than 30 days before a trial date is set. A request must be in writing and be accomplished by payment of jury fees no later than the 10th day before the trial is set to begin, unless a fee exemption applies if the Department of Family and DFPS is requesting jury to do in writing is entitled to exemption. Our court has a discretion to grant an ultimate jury demand if doing it will not interfere with the court's docket, delay the trial, or injure the opposing party. This is quite interesting. Here. Now, you've heard me mention the word neglect. The definition and criteria for child neglect in California's Penal Code 270 as a parent or guardian's failure to provide necessary care, supervision, or protection for a child. This includes inadequate food, clothing, shelter, or medical care, and situations where a child is at risk of harm. Now, this recent, I've had two family members that were accused of neglect with medical care. One was a parents that started last Sunday when they had a case of suspected appendicitis in their 4-month-old child. 4-year-old child, not 4 months, I'm sorry. A 4-year-old child. Now, this 4-year-old child had a hospital misdiagnostic them, and the social workers pressured the parents. And the child had his appendix removed, but it wasn't necessary to do so. They found out later the child had gallstones. And it was a stupid thing. They didn't take x-rays, and they were chasing a pain in the left groin because appendix is in the right groin. So they removed your appendix, and they should not remove it because there's a lot of benefits to having an appendix as a young child growing up because it creates immunity. Anyway, the other situation was just even more worse. The law also recognizes physical and emotional neglect. So if a child is being pressured through domestic violence or yelling or screaming at the child, acknowledging the child's mental and emotional well-being is important to their physical safety. That is emotional neglect. Determined child's neglect involves assessing the caregiver's intent and circumstances. Court considers whether neglect was willfully or due to factors beyond the caregiver's control. Economic hardship may be considered. Because you don't have the money or you're low income, you should not be immediately accused of neglect. But it does not automatically absolve responsibility. Courts examine efforts made to provide for children's needs as challenges. Now, when neglect is suspected, child often evaluates, the CPS all evaluates the system using a standard assessment tool. This tool considers the child age, severity of neglect, any history of neglect or abuse to remove. So there is this tool. Now, in Dakota, North Dakota, they have a thing called a Child Protection Service Assessment Guide. And they have factor one, household composition. How does the household operate and what is the family structure? What are the key components? Family makeup, housing income, tribal affiliation, and clarify roles and boundaries. Now, abuse is whether a child's personal response for a child has willfully inflicted or allowed to be inflicted upon child's mental injury or bodily injury, including physical pain, substantial bodily injury, or serious bodily injury. Documentation, description of injury, include location and appearance of any injury and any medical of injury. Assesses whether there's been any sexual abuses defined in violation. neglect, and they'll have a whole list of it. But this is just one example of a tool that's used. Um, they have one here called the family assessment. During the initial assessment, the Child Protection Services caseworker has divided behaviors and conditions about the child, parent, and family that contribute to risk of maltreatment. During the family assessment, the CPS worker engages the family in a process designed to gain a greater understanding about family strengths, needs, and resources, that children are safe and the risk of maltreatment is reduced. The family assessment is initiated immediately after the decision is made that the ongoing services are needed. And this is a guide for caseworkers. And I'm trying to find out what area this is from. It's from info on child.organization. So anyway, no, I get personal email, Christina. I get personal email. My email, by the way, I'll put it up here for you, Christina. Here's my email. Okay? And no one sees my email, just me. All right? So that's my email. So you can email me, Christina, at bobp@vincentwdavis.com. That's my email. And I do see my email, by the way. I just got to check it more often. That's part of my problems. Now, we're running a little bit late on the show here because apparently my time started, the show started late. Now, I do this twice a day. I know the times, but there's a lot of factors that contribute to being on the show promptly and everything. And one of the biggest factors I have is a computer. Now, I've now saved up enough money to buy a computer. Problem is, the computer I want to buy has gone up a couple $1,000s. So now I need to still shop around. Never fails. The computer I wanted to get 4 months ago, I had lined up, but it has gone up because the tariffs. I don't know why $1,000. That's like 50%. A computer for 2,000 now is 4,000. My salary doesn't get any better. So there's my email. I'm going to put my phone number back up because I really like to get someone to call and hear me talk and talk and talk and talk. I'd rather have someone else ask questions or even text me a message. Would be nice. Would be really nice. Um, trial, trying to have a jury trial. I wonder. Um, we have another question here from Christina. Okay, Christina emailed me, so let's see what she has to say. Okay, she sent me to my email at Vincent W. Davis. Okay. She talks about something called a disillusional disorder diagnosis. And Christina Reynosa is from Nevada. I keep saying Texas is Nevada. She's from Las Vegas, Nevada. And it was built entirely on a lie. They placed the rape victims with the rapists. Wow. Once you're labeled disillusional, all future abuse reports can be dismissed. This is an excellent email, Christina. Thank you for sharing it. I'm going to have to take time to read it, okay? I don't want to do it during the show, but thank you for sharing it. Um, so, Christina, um, we have right now, we've reached my time limit, and I need to close my show down. I've gone over my show way too far over. Um, I want to thank Carla Rapa and Christina and Najma Mia for the emoji of hearts. I want to thank Carol Rapa and Christina Reynosa for the thumbs up. Thank you all for listening. Now, I'll be back tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I hope that some of you will come back and have some questions for me or have some topics you'd like me to talk about because I want to help you with your case. Do not give up on your children. Thank you, Christina Reynosa from Nevada, Las Vegas, Nevada. Thank you from Nazma Mia. I think you're from Maryland. I'm not sure. But thank you all for calling in. And I'm glad you emailed me something else important, Christina. So keep fighting for your children. Do not give up. There will be a brief message from my attorney at the end of this. And God bless you, and I'll see you tonight.
A vivid picture is encrypted in your mind as the critics get in line like they're witnessing a crime. But then you notice there's a shiver in your spine from the feelings of discontentment and bitterness combined. Heartbroken when you listen to the judges, another kid's innocence corrupted. And if you go against it, it's destructive. Consider this predicament the toughest, but we believe in a system fit for justice. Child Protective Services only pretends to save it. The one solution for this is worthy of instant praises. 30 years of experience with relentless cases. Allow me to introduce them. This is Vincent Davis, defending you when they don't think a mother fits the role. Is it juvenile dependency or government control? Observe the pain in their eyes. It's time for us to realize we are the last ones left. Put your faith